All right, we are done with the basics of the internal controls and the internal control system. We have already discussed the sales system, the purchase system, the inventory system, the bank and cash system, the non-current asset system, and the payroll system. And now we will be discussing the exam requirements. Like when there's a question on the internal controls in your F8 exam, it may be asked in different ways. Like sometimes the examiner is asking you just to identify and explain the deficiencies and provide the recommendation. Sometimes examiner is asking you to identify and explain the deficiency, provide the recommendation, and alongside provide the test of control if system is operating effectively. Sometimes examiner is asking you to explain the strengths within the system. Sometimes they're using the term key controls within the system. So the internal control thing is tested in the exam in the form of different exam requirements. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss all those sorts of requirements which may be tested in the exam. And we will be discussing how we are going to deal with that particular requirement so that you are writing the exact thing which the examiner is requiring from you. So we have certain requirements over here. The first one is the requirement number 1, exam focus. And the examiner asks you identify and explain the deficiencies. The second part is recommend a control to address each of these deficiencies. And the third thing is describe a test of control the external auditor will perform to assess if each of these controls, if implemented, is operating effectively. Now, identify simply means that you are going to write the case study line, just like we used to do in the planning section, the risk assessment question. Identifying the risk means that first of all, you are going to start with the case study line. So identify the deficiency means that first of all, you're going to start with the case study line, because the case study line will ensure which deficiency or which weakness you are going to write. And then explanation means the impact of that weakness on the business. Let's say the company is delivering the goods to the customers and they are not taking the signatures of the customers on the delivery note. Now, this is the weakness that first of all, you're going to take the case study line and either you're going to write as it is, or for example, if the lines are big, you can summarize those lines. Now, the explanation of this weakness is that if they are not taking the signatures from the customers, customers can later on claim that they have not received the goods. And as a result, company needs to provide them again, which will eventually be a loss for the company. Now, this is the explanation, impact of that weakness, consequences of that weakness, or repercussions of that weakness on the business. So if you are just identifying, you won't be getting marks for it. With identification, you have to explain the deficiency, and explain means the impact. And remember one thing, that when we talk about the weakness, the impact of the weakness is negative. The negative impact of that weakness over the business, the worst impact of that weakness, deficiency over the business, on the business. And the second requirement is recommend the control to address each of these deficiencies. Now, this simply means that you are going to tell them how you can fix, how you can overcome this deficiency. Like, for example, you're going to tell them the signature should always be taken from the customers on the delivery note. Now, if you think this is too easy, yes, it is too easy, as long as your recommendation is viable and practical. Viable and practical means that should be practically possible to implement that recommendation which you are giving them. It should be cost benefit. It should be practically viable, and don't tell them anything which they are unable to do. Describe a test of control the external auditors would perform to assess if each of these controls, if implemented, is operating effectively. Now, you need to recall your first lecture on the internal controls, in which I explained you what is the test of control. I told you the test of control is a type of audit procedure which the auditor is performing to assess the system, to assess the effectiveness or evaluate the effectiveness of the system. Now, when you talk about the test of control, it's the auditor action to test the strength of the system, to test this, to test or evaluate the system. But there's one problem in that. Examiner is saying describe a test of control the external auditors would perform to assess if each of these controls, if implemented, is operating effectively. Now, in the question, in the case study, currently you are having a deficiency, currently you are having a weakness. But the examiner is saying to you, first of all, assume that everything is going fine, then what should be the test of control? Now, the example which I gave you, that the delivery note is not signed. Now, this was the weakness, and I told you the repercussions of that. The customers can claim that they have not received the goods, etc. Now, the recommendation is that signatures should always be taken. This is the recommendation. Now, test of control if system is operating effectively. Now, if the system was operating effectively, obviously they would be taking the signatures on the delivery note. Now, how I can check whether they are taking the signature on the delivery note or not? So inspect the delivery note on sample basis to confirm the signatures taken. Like obviously there will be a lot of delivery notes. I cannot inspect all of them. So what I can do is inspect on the sample basis, take some of them and see whether there are signatures on it. Now, first of all, you need to assume that if the system is operating effectively, and then you will be applying the test of control. This is something very important. So that's why I've written it over here. Examiner is asking the test of control if system is operating effectively. So first you have to assume that everything is going fine, the system is effective and they're following the controls. And then you will be testing the management's control activity or the management's control procedure. So we are not going to apply the test of control on the weakness. We are going to assume first that everything is going fine, and then we are going to apply the test of control. I can give you a hint of that. I can give you a tip of that. There's a tip to deal with this type of requirement. Now, the first column includes the weakness which you have explained, that they are not taking the signature, as a result, the customer can later on claim that they have not received the goods. An examiner is not asking you to apply the test of control on the deficiency because they are telling you first to assume that everything is going fine and then apply the test of control. Now, if you look at the second column includes the recommendation where you have given the solution how to fix the weakness. Now, this solution, this recommendation is actually an ideal control activity. The thing you are telling to them is something that should be over there, should be in place. So the hint is, so the tip is that you can apply the test of control on your own recommendation. Your recommendation is actually the thing which you are telling them how to overcome your weakness. Now, the signature should always be taken. So if the system is operating effectively, they will always be taking the signature. So how you can check? Inspect the delivery note on the sample basis to confirm the signatures are taken from the customers. All right, so we have an example. And in fact, we have two examples. Once we are done with these two examples, I will be coming back to this slide where I'll be telling you where to use the term inspect, where to use the term observe, where to use the term review. We'll be coming back to this. So first of all, example number one. Factory staff are each issued a sequentially numbered clock card, which details their employee number and name. Employees swipe their cards at the beginning and end of the 8-hour shift. And this process is not supervised. So the thing is that actually there is a machine they're having on the entrance, and you have to swap your card over there. And once you swap your card over there, you are allowed to enter. And similarly, when you are going back at the end of the day, you have to swipe it again. Now, this process is not supervised. Like for example, this is the door, the entrance door, and there's a machine, and everyone is coming, and then they're swapping their cards, and no one is looking at this thing, no one is observing this thing. So if no one is observing this thing, then the employees may swap for each other, or a single person may bring up many cards and can enter the individuals who are not yet there. Like for example, we used to do in the class, in the school, when like there was no one in the class and we were calling their attendance, yes, present, things like that way. So there's no one over there to supervise. So an employee can bring multiple cards and can swap for the employees who are not present. And eventually they are going to be paid for the work they have not performed. So first of all, you're going to identify the weakness, which means you're going to write the case study line. And the case study line means identification. Employees swipe their cards at the beginning and end of the 8-hour shift. This process is not supervised. So this is the identification, writing the case study line. Now the explanation means the impact of that weakness over the business, on the business. This could result in a number of employees being swiped in as present when they are not. And this will result in a substantially increased payroll cost, or you can say this will result in employees being paid for the work they have not performed, and as a result, increased payroll cost. The recommendation is the clocking in and out process should be supervised by a responsible official to prevent one individual clocking in multiple employees. So place an individual over there who can observe, who can see that only a person is swapping only one card. Or alternatively, you can place a camera over there, a surveillance camera. And again, for the camera, you also need someone who reviews the video or the live telecast of that thing. Now, currently, this is a weakness that employees are swiping their cards, but no one is supervising that function. Employees are swapping their cards, but no one is supervising that function. So as a result of that, and a single employee may swipe multiple cards. Now, the examiner is asking you the test of control if system is operating effectively. Now, if the system is operating effectively, obviously there's going to be a person over there who will be supervising that function, that process. Now, how can I check whether there is an individual over there who is supervising the process? So just go to the entrance door and see whether a person is allocated, deployed over there or not. So observe the clocking in and out process to ensure it is being supervised by a responsible official. So just go to the entrance door, entrance gate, and see whether an official person is over there, deployed over there, who is supervising this process. That's it. So if the system is operating effectively, then there would be a person over there who is checking this process. Then just go over there and see whether a person is doing that. That is the test of control. Test of control simply means testing the control activity. Now, I told you that examiner said you, first of all, you have to assume that the system is operating effectively. Now, see your recommendation. You said there should be a person over there to supervise the process. So you can say the test of control can be applied on your own control recommendation, that there should be a person over there. So see, observe whether a person is there to supervise the process. That's it. Okay, let's do another example and then you can get it completely. Some of the cards finished goods are high in value. High in value means expensive, and are stored in locked area of the warehouse, and all the counting teams will be given the code to access this area. Now the goods are high in value and everyone knows the codes. When everyone knows the codes, that obviously there may be unauthorized access, and unauthorized access means there may be a risk of theft. Some things, expensive things, may be stolen, and that will be a loss of the company. So first of all, writing the case study line and then writing the impact. Recommendation is that the code should be given to only senior members of the team, and they should access the area themselves. It should not be renowned to everyone. It should not be known to everyone. Now, if the system is operating effectively, then particular individuals will be having the code and not everyone will be having the code. So how you can check whether only limited person is having the access or everyone is having the access? So there are two methods. The first method is you can ask, inquire from the accounting teams whether they know the code. And if they say, yes, we are aware of that, then that means the system is not working effectively. It's a weakness. And if they say no, only that person is having the access, now that means the system is effective. Or the second way is attempt to access the area where the high value inventory is stored. And this should not be possible without the access code. Just practically going over there and see whether without having the code, can you access that area? If that is possible, then that means the system is weak. If that is not possible and you need a code to access the area, then that means the controls are strong. So remember this thing. The first of all, you have to identify writing the case study line. Then you will be writing the impact, which is the consequence of that weakness over the system on the business, and then giving up the recommendation, which are practical, and then test of control. If system is operating effectively, first of all, you have to assume. Now you see in your control recommendation, you said the control, the access code should be only with the senior management. So you see, go there practically and access the goods. If it is not possible, then that means only limited numbers are having the access. Now, if you're checking the process and the procedure, just like you were looking whether there is someone on the entrance door to supervise the clocking in and out process, you are going to use the term observe. If you want to check a particular document, then you will be using the term inspect. If you're overall checking something, you're going to use the term review. If you're finding something, then you're going to use the term trace. If you're asking something, you are going to use the term inquire. If you're matching certain documents, then you're going to use the term compare. Like, for example, whether there is any person over there to see the process, use term observe, whether there is an official person to supervise that function. For example, you're checking whether there are signatures on the delivery note. Inspect the delivery note on sample basis to confirm the signatures are taken. For example, you're checking whether the bank reconciliation is being performed monthly. So you will be checking, review the bank reconciliation file to confirm it is being conducted every month. For example, if you're finding something, let's assume the order is being entered into the ordering system, and then it is automatically transferred, sent to the dispatch department for the dispatch. So you can take some copies of the order from the ordering department and trace it to the dispatch department. For example, you're asking whether the quality is being checked before the goods are dispatched. Inquire the quality manager whether the quality of the goods is being checked before the goods are dispatched. And for example, you are comparing something, matching something where, like, for example, there is an official price list and you need to make sure the same prices are being used on the invoice. So take the price list, updated price list, and compare the prices on the price list with that of sales invoice. So observe, inspect, review, trace, inquire, and compare. And we are going to use these terms when we are designing a test of control, which is an audit procedure to check the system. All right, now we are going to discuss exam focus requirement number 2. And this is a fairly simple requirement and not tested regularly. In fact, sometimes the examiner is going to test the strengths in the system. Identify and explain internal control strengths in the system. Now, strength is opposite to the deficiency, opposite to the weakness. The weakness has a negative impact on the business. The strength has the positive impact on the business. So identify and explain internal control strengths in the system. Identify simply means that, again, writing the case study line. An explanation is the impact of that strength. And I'm telling you that the strength has the positive impact. Like, for example, I gave you the example, the delivery note is not signed by the customers, or you can say signatures are not taken from the customers on the delivery note. This was the weakness. The impact of that was the customers can claim that they have not received the goods, and as a result, the company needs to provide them again because the company is not having any evidence. Now, if it is written in the question that the goods are delivered to the customers via a courier, and the courier company always takes the signature from the customers on the delivery note. Now, this is the strength, which is opposite to the deficiency, opposite to the weakness. And the impact of that is again opposite, that the customer cannot claim that they have not received the good because the company will be having the evidence of that delivery. So this is the impact of that strength. The impact of that strength is positive. Let me give you another example, both the weakness and then again strength. For example, the employees are clocking in and out, and this process is not supervised. So the weakness was that employees may swap for each other, and as a result, they be paid for the work they have not performed, which will eventually increase the payroll cost. This was the deficiency. Now, what if this is written in the case study? The employees mark their attendance by using the clock cards, and this process is being supervised by an official person. Now, the impact of that is positive. The employees cannot swap for each other, and as a result, they will be paid for the work they have only performed. So write the case study line. This is the identification, and explanation is the positive impact of that strength. So start explaining with this should ensure, or this may result in, or this will result in. You can choose any line. For example, that this according to this, as a result of this, this will result in, this may ensure, this will ensure. You can use any term to start your lines. So the example, factory staff are each issued a sequentially numbered clock card, which details their employee number and name. So every employee is having a sequentially numbered clock card. That means there's a proper sequence of that. There's a proper coding. There's a proper coding, employee number and name over that. So this is the identification. Factory staff are each issued a sequentially numbered clock card, which details their employee number and name. This is the identification, writing the case to the line. Now, because every employee is having their own card, which have the number and name on it. Like, for example, there is an ATM card, and you know the ATM card, debit card, credit card has the name of the card holder in it. Let's assume I'm claiming this is my card. So you can check, okay, show me whether there's a name on the card, Rashid Hussain over there. So if it is written Rashid Hussain over there, then that means my card. So this should ensure that employees are only paid for the work they have performed. And you can also say, this will result in, or you can say, as a result of this, or you can say, this will make sure that only real employees are being paid, because there is a risk of fictitious, ghost and bogus employees, that sometimes the managers and supervisors may set up bogus and fictitious employees to get the payment in their own pockets. So if everyone is having a sequential number clock card, which details their employee number and name, so this will make sure that only real employees are being paid and according to the work they have performed. So this ensure that employees are only paid for the work they have done, and that the payroll records record completely all employees, as any gaps in the sequence would be identified. Or in other words, you can say this will make sure that only real employees are being paid and according to the work they have performed. Okay, now we have exam focused requirement number 3. This is similar to the requirement number 2. There's only a difference between the term used by the examiner. Like if you talk about 5 to 6 attempts back, the examiner used to have the term in the question strengths. But from last, you can say 4 to 5 attempts, the examiner is using the term key controls in the system. This key control is actually the strength as well. Identify and explain key controls in the system in which the auditor may seek to place reliance on and desire a test, describe a test of control the auditor should perform to assess if each of these control is operating effectively. Now, here you're going to make 2 lines, 2 columns. In fact, there's no need to make any column because you're appearing in the computer-based exam. And in the word pad, the right-hand side of your question will automatically have these 2 columns where you are going to attempt, where you're going to write your answer or attempt your question. So identify and explain key controls in the system. Now, key controls means the strengths. Identify means write the case study line of the strength. And explain means the strength has a positive impact, so you need to explain the impact of that strength. And again, starting with this should, this ensures, this results in, this will make sure, whatever. It's up to you how you are starting those lines. And again, while you are describing the test of control, you have to make sure that if you're checking a process or the procedure, use the term observe. If you're checking a particular document or documents, use the term inspect. If you're looking at something overall, then use the term review. If you're finding something, use the term trace. If you're asking something, use the term inquire. And if you're matching something, use the term compare, or you can also say agree, compare, and agree. So cash is transferred to the bank via collection by a security company. And I gave you this example when we were dealing with the first lecture of the internal controls. That, for example, if the company is dealing in the cash, and the cash is not submitted to the deposited to the bank on the daily basis, they are keeping the cash within their offices. So there is a risk that cash may be stolen. There are high risk of the theft or the robbery over there. And if they have a high amount of cash which they are depositing in the bank through one of their employee, an employee is taking the cash with them, so there's a high chances of the theft and the robbery. But if the cash is transferred to the bank via collection by a security company which comes and collect the cash and then deposit it to the bank, then obviously there is a less risk of theft and the robbery in that. Because even if there is a robbery, that security company is actually insured and you will be getting the payment by any means. So cash received from the customers is taken to the bank via collection by a security company. This is the identification. Explanation is this ensures that the cash is safeguarded and the risk of theft when transferring to the bank is minimized. That there's a less risk of cash being stolen or being robbed. Now, test of control if the system is operating effectively. Now, they're claiming that they are depositing the cash in the bank via a security company. Now, because this is their daily routine and being an auditor, you are there, you can observe whether a company is coming up daily and taking the cash and depositing in the bank. So you can observe this process. So because this is happening on the daily basis and you're there, and when you are looking at the process, you're going to use the term observe. Observe whether a security company is coming and they're taking the cash and depositing it to the bank. This is the first way. And the second way is, like, for example, if unfortunately you didn't see anyone coming up within the company and taking the cash, so you can ask from the employees or the staff, like, who is responsible for depositing the cash into the bank? And if they say, usually we go ourselves to deposit the cash in the bank, then that means the system is weak. And if they reply, a security company comes and they show you the documents as well, they look like they collect the cash and they do the signatures over there and they write the amount, how much they are taking. Now, in that case, if they're confirming that the security company is coming up and taking the cash, that is the test of control. So test of control is actually checking the client system, which they are claiming. They're claiming they're depositing the cash into the bank via security company. So you can observe this process, whether a security company is coming up and taking the cash, Or you can ask from the employees, inquire from the employees how the cash is being deposited into the bank. If they say, yes, the security company does so, then the system is effective. Now, what I have seen from many years, the student is having problem in the test of control. They're not getting it completely. Test of control is the auditor's action to see the control activity of the company. Like, for example, if they're saying we do stamp the goods once the quality is being checked, like you probably have seen the quality assurance check on some goods. They say when the quality is being checked, we do stamp the goods quality checked. There's a stamp on it. So if you want to see this activity, inspect the goods on the sample basis and see the stamp over there. If they're saying we regularly perform the supplier reconciliation and we prepare the supplier reconciliation statements, if they're claiming this activity, then see the file, review the file of the supplier reconciliation and see whether monthly reconciliations are over there. If they're claiming that we do check the quantity of the goods before accepting it from the supplier, then observe this process where they're counting it at the spot. So test of control is checking the client's activity, whatever they are claiming. But in the weakness question, the efficiency question, examiner asks you, first of all, assume their system is operating effectively, and then go for the test of the control. Okay, now we have the exam focus requirement number 4, and this requirement is tested once or twice, and in early F8 exams, that means December 2007, I guess, June 2008, I guess, 2 old exams. So this exam requirement is tested either once or twice, and even in the 2 old past papers. But again, examiner can test it again, definitely. So list audit procedures that an auditor would normally carry out on the system. Like in this type of requirement, a system is given, either the sales system, purchase system. Like for example, the sales system is given that the customers place their order on the website. The website shows the stock level over there. Once the order is placed, the order is being sent to the dispatch department. Dispatch department then gives the notification to the customer regarding the delivery of the goods, the date and the time. The goods are delivered by a courier company, and the courier company do take the records from the customers, blah, blah, blah. The story is written over there. The system is written over there. You are not going to identify any deficiency over there. You are not even asked to identify the strengths. The system is given, and you are directly going to apply the test of controls. For example, if they're saying the customer placed the order via website, the stock level is shown over there. So you're going to directly apply the test of control, that visit the client's website and see where the stock level is shown while the order is placed. If they say the courier company always record the signatures on the customers on the delivery note, then you're going to inspect the delivery notes to confirm the signatures on the customers on the sample basis. So in this type of requirement, you are directly going to write the test of control, and alongside you are going to explain the reason for each procedure, why you are applying this test. And I told you in the first lecture that the reason of applying the control test, the test of control, is to check whether the control objective is being met. Okay, let's go to an example. When the quantity of a particular part falls below the reorder level, the reorder level is the level which is being set by the company within their inventory system. That, for example, if the goods reach to this level, then we have to place an order, because when they place the order and the goods are received, there's a lead time. The lead time is the time in between placing the order and receiving the goods. And for lead time, they usually maintain the buffer stock, which is also known as the emergency stock. So when the quantity of the particular part falls below the reorder level, an email is sent to the procurement department detailing the part required and the quantity to order. So the test of control. Obtain a sample of emails from the store manager's computer, trace details to the order database. Now the email is sent to the procurement department, which details the part required and the quantity. So email is sent. So you're going to take the emails from the system from where the emails are sent and trace it to the system where the emails are sent. So you're going to compare these two things, trace, take some emails from there and trace it to there and see whether the same details are mentioned over there. And what is the reason for each test? To ensure that all orders are recorded and that details are correct, because we are matching the details with each other. So we are confirming that all orders are recorded and no emails is being, you can say, dropped, and no emails has gone into the spam. Every email has been reached. Ensure all orders are recorded and that order details are correct. So exceptionally, we can have this type of question. In the last, you can say from 2008 to onwards, it's been how many years? Around 12 years. I have not seen any question like that. So exam focus requirement number 5, this is exactly the same what we have already discussed, but there's no test of control thing in it. Identify and explain the deficiency. Identify means the case study line. Explanation means the impact of that, and the recommendation, how to overcome the weakness. So here you are going to make 2 columns. Example is being given. And then there is requirement number 6, which is again a weird requirement. And again, it is tested only once, in which the examiner asks to identify and explain deficiency. And also he gave another requirement, explain the possible impact. Now we usually identification, we write the case study line, and explanation is regarding the impact. But here the examiner asked the identification in one requirement and explanation in the other. So here the identify and explain means the case study line. And the implication means the impact. So we are only going to write the case study line in the first column, the impact in the second column, and the recommendation in the third column. So this is all about the exam focused requirements, that you are going to get these type of questions in the exam, and make sure you are aware of these terminologies, make sure you are aware of these test of controls things. Because if you are not aware of these requirements, if you're not aware of the technique, how to handle it, then you will be losing the easy marks in the exam. So this is all about the exam focus requirements.